Welcome to Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave, where we're on a mission to answer 4 questions from some of the best leaders and leadership minds in the country. And today we are pleased to have special guest Tim Murphy. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Thanks to be here.
Hey,
looking forward to being here. So.
Yes, we've been looking forward for a while. So yes, let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of, a little bit about your background, basically who you are, what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm unemployed at the moment, but I used to run companies. So I was the CEO of Rebounderz Parks, but let me take you back a little bit.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think it came across as unemployed in a good way. First, it was, man, I got to go down to the office and wait for my check, right? I didn't get that vibe.
No unemployment office here. No, I was
no.
care of on that sale. So.
No, so tell us about you said about the Boomers part, but tell us about unemployed in a good way.
Sure. So I've been in the family entertainment center business for a very long time. Entertainment, frankly, amusement parks, water parks, theme parks, family entertainment centers. The family entertainment centers is miniature golf, arcade, restaurant, some bars. So there's just depends on what you put into the family entertainment center. But I actually started with my parents, small place called the Spirit of 76 in New Jersey, a miniature golf, arcade, and restaurant. Eventually, they sold the business. We moved to Orlando, and I started at Epcot Center when it first started in foods. Got into operations, ultimately finance, did the resort financial statements for them, and then moved into the restaurant sector for the better part of 30 years, 150 brands and 10,000 locations over my career.
Nice.
A friend of mine from the restaurant industry said, hey, I got a buddy that really needs some help, could really use your expertise. Could you come over and take a look at this entertainment company he's got? It was called Rebounderz Trampoline Parks. I ended up being the CEO for the company. I found that the company was more valuable than the patents they had on the company than the company itself. So
oh my God.
to do it, we were a franchisor of trampoline parks. And if you're familiar with trampolines, there's like 1,200 of them in the United States now. When it started out, this was one of the first 8 that were in the country. And so little by little, it grew, but not substantial, like say a Sky Zone or a Launch or an Urban Air or something like that. We were smaller, but the founder was really smart in the fact that he knew how to build a patent. And we had 86 claims that apparently everybody used in the industry. And so I sued a small little private equity firm up in the Midwest and won. And then I went and sued some of the largest ones that were out there that owned Sky Zone, Rock and Jump, and Circus Tricks, called Palladium Equity. Was actually suing the companies, not Palladium Equity, but that was who they owned them. So
Right.
Eventually it got back. Well, that helped me to get the owner to sell the company a lot easier than it was just the business itself.
Nice.
I did well with the business, but ultimately sold. Had a couple months off, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the Carlyle Group reached out. Very large private equity firm, $460 billion asset under management. Company said, hey, come on down to South America and take a look at what we have. And we're about to buy some family entertainment centers and amusement parks in Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And so I did, spent a little bit of the summer 2019 down there and helped them acquire it and then joined their board. I've been on their board ever since.
Nice.
Today, you can look it up as Coney Park or Happy City in South America. And then a couple months after that, the Cerberus private equity firm reached out to me and said, hey, you're working with that group down there, different fund, but we'd like you to take a look at something we've got. We're about to repossess from the Carlyle Group from an investment they had, which was called the Apex Parks Group. So they had 2 amusement parks, 2 water parks, and 12 family entertainment centers. Okay. I came in December 2019, flew to California. I looked at 9 FECs, family entertainment centers they had out there at the time, as well as all the competition, everything from go-kart tracks to things like us to miniature golf, all around. And I came back and I just said, these are just ran incorrectly. They're a diamond in the rough, but they're ran incorrectly. They're focused on the wrong guest. We can fix this. Well, of course, what happens after December 2015. You get into 2015.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We had the pandemic in the middle of it. So all my traveling to South America and to all these parks stopped the first week of March 2020. But we went forward. We got a plan. We designed what we wanted to do. We kept 8 of these parks. So we had 6 family entertainment centers, Boomers, and then we had 2 water parks, Big Kahunas. Truthfully, when we took over, there were 4 brands. There was a LA Speed Zone, and there's Boomers. I combined it to one brand. And on the water parks, we have Big Kahunas and Sahara Sam's in New Jersey. Combined that. So we had 6 family entertainment centers and 2 water parks in California, Florida, and New Jersey. And I'm based out of my home. We had no corporate office. I went to California for a year, moved back, and I would rather be at the parks to fix the parks. So that's something we did. And, we went from a bankrupt company, worthless locations, to something of value that was able to be sold to the Bolero Corporation by Cerberus Private Equity on September 30th this year. So, yeah, I'm unemployed, but there's a little bit to get to that point,
Just a little bit. I was going to say, you had your hands full trying to get everything turned around. And like I said, you couldn't have asked for a worse time. Then, hey, how do we get people out?
My wife, I'm still getting paid and I'm breathing. That's the best I can do right at the moment.
Yes.
At one point, I had to lay off. We opened and closed 4 times all of our parks. And at one point, I had to lay off 85-90% of my workforce a week after Thanksgiving in 2020 and didn't reopen until late March 2021. So it was a challenging time.
Well,
to say the least.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't make it any less painful, but I'm sure people could understand that, hey, when we're not allowed to physically have people come in our parks, and you had a couple in California, and it's not like California had a really loose regulations. I mean,
I got to tell you a little story about that. So in California, every municipality is different.
Right.
I don't care where you're at in the area. We had 5, so it was challenging from park to park. We were able to open only outside. And in one area, Alameda County, which is our Livermore location, that's Oakland area of California,
okay.
That's where that's at. They said, the only thing you can do, you can't run your go-karts, can't sell any food, but we'll let you open up your miniature golf. All right, so one week we had 93 people come through, and I said, it's not enough to keep the power on. Shut this thing down until we get past this whole point, because every municipality was a little different. One of the hardest ones was in our LA County one. LA really tightened down, wasn't allowing to do certain things. They were really tough. And I will say Irvine, which is in Orange County, a little more loose. They allowed us a few more things than others. So there is some political, not getting in on the political side of things, but there's definitely some political movement depending on the county you're in California.
Well, as soon as you mentioned California and you're talking about the entertainment industry, I remember that lady. I don't remember the name, I don't remember the circumstances, but I remember everything was shut down. And then the entertainment industry, the film industry was just tightening up the screws. Like, hey, we got to get back to doing something. So this lady who owned a restaurant took a video, and she had all outdoor dining. And then directly across the street, if you remember, the film crew that was filming had the same exact tent, the same exact setup. They were allowed to do outdoor dining for the crew, but she wasn't for customers. Basically, she was about to lose her business. She filmed it, put it on the internet, it went viral. I mean, but there was tons of those types of stories where, it's okay for one, but not the other, or everybody's going down with the ship. And especially, like you said, in LA County, that's where this one was. And it was interesting. Let's put it that way.
Oh, no, I agree. Traveling out there, obviously living out there for a period, and then traveling as I go back and forth, even today, to see the outdoor facilities that have been created in so many restaurants in all the cities is kind of unique. I love the weather, to be outside. So usually little heaters, Edison lights. It's really kind of cool. That's kind of the good thing that came out of it. But the bottom line is, it was a challenge. And just where to eat. I take my wife out there. We move out there in end of October 2020. Nothing is open. And it's like there's no place to go. There's nothing to do. She's just sitting in the house. Family's back here in Florida. It's like, why are we here? At the end of the day, because somewhere else, you got to sit here.
Because they're paying me. I don't know. I need to be close to the park. I mean, it's kind of hard to go from just take a flight from Orlando to Irvine every day. I need to go into work. I mean,
there's not many direct shots. There are now, but there weren't many direct shots. You always had to go through another layover city to get to John Wayne Airport. LA was always a direct shot from Orlando, but that's another hour and a half drive down to where you need to go. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you're flying general aviation. You got that NetJet subscription dialed in, man. You are
working for private equity, so that wasn't going to happen. So.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, you hear all the rumors about them blowing money on when they get angel investors on something.
They have assets under management for a reason. They've got money. They know how to keep it. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh, good, we got our venture whatever funding. It's all party and it goes to no, not anymore.
No, but it's so funny when I talk to people. Hey, do you think the investment firm can help me with my project? No, they're not. They're just not going to do it. Do you have established EBITDA over 5 million a year? If you don't, they don't want to talk to you. So.
Yeah. The only deal with certain players, I mean, it's not like the Small Business Administration. Hey, we'll help you with the startup. It's like, no, you got to be making some money, and we're more into the scaling business than the startup business.
And I've had to teach so many people that, the difference between private equity, venture capitalists, single family offices, friends and family investors. Hey guys, you want to start, that's where you go first, and then move on from that point of view. You want to get the PE, you better make sure that you're doing some good, serious EBITDA, because that's all they care about. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to work your way up that food chain to get to the big dollars. But
right.
So when did they start really opening up the parks and letting you let folks in, get things done?
Really March of 2021. And keep in mind, one of the parks was a water park that's only seasonal, that opens up basically a little bit before Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's in Destin, Florida. So the rest of the parks could easily open. We had an indoor-outdoor water park in New Jersey, and it was open, closed, weather could be bad, whatever. But even at that, it was more stringent than Florida, but a lot less than California to do what we need to do there. But really to open up was starting in March, but not everybody wanted to come out. Groups took us over a year till we really start to get groups back. School groups, young youth groups, young adults, college kids, things of that nature. Took a little bit of time to really rebuild all of that, because that was one of the good revenue streams out of the parks, were larger groups coming in, or a group buy out of the park. We didn't see that for a good year, 18 months, before it really got back on track again. So you're getting a lot of folks. Now, the interesting thing was, especially in California, Disneyland was shut down for a long period of time. Magic Mountain, Universal, they were not opening. Guess where they came? To us. So they were driving over 100 miles away to come do something. So we were able to capture some of those folks. When things started opening back up, they kind of went to their normal area. But it was interesting to see the demographics, how far away. But we started, to answer your question, we started back up in March, and we were at a record pace that year. We lost about $10 million with the 8 parks that we had in 2019. But we made about $8 million in 2021. And that was a shortened year, too. Keep that in mind. We didn't open up until late March. So.
Right. Well, and that's not bad, especially thing that you had to take a bath in 2020. Like you said, the weather was...
I think basically it was a pile of cash I was burning, about $8 million that year. So not too good.
That's enough to maybe not keep everything running, but it's like, okay, we'll shut down. We at least got to keep the pipes from bursting. We got to keep that kind of stuff.
And we had some challenges like that, especially when the parks were closed, right? So you've got pipes bursting if someone's not there. We kept the park manager on, which is like a general manager, and then an assistant, so they could alternate on days and go check the park. And did anyone break in? Yeah, we had some break-ins during this time frame too, unfortunately, in California, and some of the lesser desirable places. But bottom line is, we lost equipment with this, but we wanted them to go in just to make sure water's running, it's not freezing, and things of that nature. But we still did have some challenges, especially when you get some really extreme colds in some of the places in California and New Jersey. So.
I can understand that. Well, it's worth every penny having them there to make sure something that happens doesn't get out of hand beforehand.
And then we were working on projects too, because we were trying to beautify these parks. We spent good $14 million on capital expenditures since we took over the park, including this year would have been spent. And we pretty much spent all that this year before we sold the company. So there's a lot of repair projects, things we want to work on. But the number one thing that we did going into these parks was fix the bathrooms. Number one thing we did. And what's the reason behind that? I learned this in the restaurant industry. Guests, especially mothers, pay attention to that bathroom. If it's filthy, they're thinking the rest of the place is filthy. So it's one of those areas we either cleaned it really well, scrubbed, paint, whatever was necessary, or remodel tile in several of the locations, really just try to fix it up, because it's the sense of what the guest sees. They're thinking the kitchen's going to be dirty. They're thinking the attractions are going to be dirty. And we did a series of safety videos to show everyone how safe we work because of COVID, all the extra things we did to clean these parks. And, it helped. Our PR for that helped. Getting it out on social media helped. But, that's the first thing a mother looks at. What does this place look like? I actually put my team through the Disney Institute of Guest Service to say, what does Disney do? So where everything's like we're doing right now, it was all on Zoom calls, and we were going through it. So I had my corporate team, and I had my park managers on there, and watching what Disney does, and how far apart trash cans are, and boxes that are delivered are never in front of what the guests are. You don't want to leave tools out. All these little things. And these were things that I was trying to teach everyone. This is what we need to look for when we go through the parks, to say, this is what the guest will see. I don't care what, we used to say initially, you want it to be as clean as you want it to be at your home. But then we can realize, okay, not many people are that clean at the home. So we need to say standard is you're going to be clean this way. We're looking for hazards. We're looking for problems. We want to fix these things because safety is our number one core value that we've got. And I want to make sure that not only the team members are safe, but of course our guests are safe. So, we look for those things, but when you take out those hazards, it's the same thing the guest wants to see. We needed to change these parks. And I've said this multiple times. My team laughed at me to begin with, but they said, I said, we're serving Walmart customers right now. We need to change from that. The low price discounter doesn't really care. I need to start changing the demographics to be a target customer, a little more educated. They'll spend a little bit more. Because as I kept telling them over and over, price never matters if the experience is great. And at the end of the day, we got it. I mean, I think we got it back from them. Did it happen overnight? No, because we came out of the pandemic. There was a lot of bad social media from the previous company, horrible reviews, low 2s, low 3s. So I needed to change this philosophy and saying that we're a better place, better quality foods, better experience. Talking to the guests, smiling at the guests. Whoa, what a concept.
God forbid. Yes. Oh, my God.
And if we can make them feel good and special about being there, then we will have a better experience. Now, not all the managers were on page or on point when we did this, but over time you learn, okay, this isn't so bad, that we can do this. And I would say towards the end of it, they got our core values. And, one of the things that I saw when I was consulting for the company was, how does all these parks, all 16 at the time when I looked at all 16 for the previous bankrupt company, how do they respond to the guests when they come through? Some didn't look at me. Managers looked away when I would walk by. And I'm just being a patron coming through there. What's the park like? I played a little miniature golf. I played a little arcade just to try to be the guest, if you will, and walk out. Who's this old guy coming in taking pictures, right? At a family entertainment center. And so you get some looks. I did have one manager in Boca Raton go, what are you doing here? Oh, I like family entertainment centers. I take pictures. Well, okay.
That's when you talk to a buddy of yours and like, hey, can I give you $50 to babysit your kid today? I'm going to take him to the park. But you're going to pay me money to take my kid to the park? Yes.
Yeah.
I need a cover story, right? Rent a kid.
But, you could tell what they were not doing. They lacked, to me, one of the core values, my fundamental core value, number one, is honesty, integrity, transparency. They lacked honesty. They lacked integrity. I definitely could see they didn't know what was going on, so it wasn't being transparent from the corporate office. I got some messages from some of the park managers that said, I hadn't even, one example was one park manager, I won't say who, she said, I said to her, are you nervous? The first time I met her at her park.
Yeah.
She said, yeah, I'm really nervous. I said, why? She said, I've never met the CEO of the company. I said, how long have you been a manager here? Oh, I've been here since I was 17, and she was in her 30s or whatever when I was talking to her.
Oh, wow.
Never seen the CEO of the company at some point? And she goes, yeah, I haven't seen anyone from corporate in a couple of years. Like, you're kidding me. I've been to that park like 15 times, 16 times, whatever the number is. And it's like, because you got to go out and show your presence. You got to listen to people. And that's how you're going to fundamentally make changes in the park. You're going to get great ideas you never heard before. It's like, you can't come up with all of them, but you listen and pay attention, use both ears and just talk, half that time. You're probably going to get a bunch out. Now, my team would say I talk a lot for sure, but definitely talk a lot. But bottom line is, you show that result, you get out there, you get involved. It's whatever you call rolling up your sleeves and getting in the trenches and talking to people. But that's how you learn things. What's really going on in this park? Walk the tracks, play miniature golf. I've sat where every guest could sit in these parks. I've walked where every guest could walk. I'll sit at every arcade game and say, what do they see? What do they see on the ceiling? How many lights are out? Things like that. It's just all these things need to be addressed. Everybody just wants to rush through. Oh yeah, I did my tour and I've gone and taken a look at it. It's like, take the time. And so I had park manager meetings and I would bring them in and say, this is what I do. And I would ask them, when's the last time you played a round of miniature golf on your FEC? What's the last time you went down in the water park, one of the slides? And it's always like a year or 2, 3 ago, or, oh, it's been forever. It's like, and how do you know what the guest sees today if you're just walking around real quickly and not doing what the guest could see? You got to look through the lens of the guest. What does the guest see? If the guest sees it's bad, then fix it. That's the bottom line. It's a really simple concept, and to me, it's common sense, but it's not common with everyone.
Obviously, it's not as common as it needs to be. It's funny, a couple of things you said. One, you talk about keeping it as clean as your home. Well, I hate to say the health department doesn't come and grade your home, and they don't inspect your home and give you a grade that's open to the public review, right? Just being honest, right? Yep. So that you do at your restaurants, and you're right about that.
I think back, I had rentals at one point, so I kind of understood what rentals are like, So that's what I'm probably thinking that their place is like.
Yeah, rental cars, rental homes. It doesn't matter. Sometimes they just don't take as good a care of them as they should. So it's like, And when you see about the bathrooms, it's funny that you talk about that eye for detail. What does the customer see? Because you're right. If a mom goes in there and the bathroom looks like, what, and they're not, if it run down, but just looks nasty, it is worth tenfold the upgrades you put into doing a little bit more of an upgrade renovation on a bathroom.
And you'd be amazed that just a little bit of paint will do. Just a little bit of paint. I mean, I'm talking like a can or two. But, you can go in and fix the tile that's broken. Of course, you should do those things. But when you got all kinds of colors, and I remember going into the one park, they had so many different colors. I said, what did they have a run on paint? And they picked all the different colors. It was on sale or on discount or something. And hey, I'm going to paint the room this. It's so many different. It's nothing with the brand. You've got to have emulation of the brand. So one of the things we did was also change our colors. It's amazing when you think about color. Look it up. Look at all the different colors. What do they mean? What's this red mean? It's passion. Blue is trust. Well, that's what I put into my colors. And we used to have colors for Boomers, or Boomers Parks, were bright orange and yellow. All right, so what do they mean? Very much kidsy. There's a little bit of energy in there, but it's very much kidsy. Well, when you have colors like that, that's something bright that really stands out. It also offends adults. And if you're trying to go after a older demographic, you need to change your neutral colors down. I learned that when I was actually at Rebounderz Trampoline Parks. We had bright blue and bright green, and it was overwhelming when you came into the facility, so you couldn't get HR departments to come there, the CEOs of company to do some sort of outing. That's like, oh, this is just two screaming kidsy. That doesn't mean there's not a bunch of kids in those companies, but the bottom line is they want to feel as comfortable too. Kids will still come to a red and blue facility. Kids will still go to orange and yellow, but the adults are probably not coming to orange and yellow. And if I need to move this to a older demographic, a little more educated individual, instead of the younger demographic, because my predecessor had said they were focused on 2 to 12-year-olds. Have you ever been through your parks? Because I've been through your parks. 85, 90% are tweens, teens, young adults, and corporations. Yeah, you got kids for sure. But it doesn't fit, and you're not supplying the foods, the beverages, liquor, beer, and wine, the things that adult would want. And if you can identify that, we created areas for them to wait, sit there. We created a Boomer's backyard, a place for Edison lights and heaters and watch games, eat food, hang out, right? Something comfortable. We did it inside. We called it a chill zone. Then I took a page out of the water parks and said, how about we create VIP areas? They can rent space for the weekend. We'd sell out on the weekends in Boca Raton, did it in Irvine. We actually tripled the size down in Boca Raton because so many people wanted space. So look for places to keep them there, because at the end of the day, in a family entertainment center, unlike a restaurant, we want people to hang out. I want people to be there as long as possible.
Yes.
If they're there longer, and when we took over the company, they were about 90 minutes. By the time I left, there's 3-4 hours, if not all day. They spend more. That's the name of the game, getting them to spend more on food, beverage, liquor, beer, and wine, maybe retail, rental space, arcades, whatever else we do. To give you, for instance, when we took over the parks, for every $1 of admission, they'd be another 20 cents spent at the parks. When we left, or I left, went from, for every dollar admission, was about $1.10 to $2.10 being spent at the parks, depending on the time of the year and the park and the demographics and so forth. That's a big increase. What that means is you're not as much interested. You're interested still in admissions, but you're getting more out of the guest because you figured out how to hold them there longer, and then they spend more. That's the name of the game. So.
Yes. Well, a couple of things that I really like, and then we'll end this segment and we'll get back and we'll get into our first question, is one, I love what you were talking about. I love what you talking about keep them there, because the first thing you talked about with the bright orange and bright yellow, I'm thinking, if I'm a parent, if I'm just sitting there, the kids are having a blast and I'm uncomfortable, at some point I'm going to say, all right, kids, it's time to go. I don't care how much the admission price is. And and like you said, the longer they stay, the hungrier they get, the more they're going to eat, the more they're going to drink. You're right. And so getting that from 20 cents on the dollar to basically $1.20 to $2 per dollar of admission, and that's your higher profit stuff anyway. I mean, it's expensive to maintain the park versus.
That's where the other eye needs to be on it. So you can say, hey, we can go after that, but you got to know what you're going to have for food cost. So if you know restaurants, and again, I've had many, many years in restaurants. So restaurants are about 25, 35% food cost. And then you got labor, about 30%, something like that. We're not much different than the labor piece. But food cost, I'm focusing in on that, especially in the family entertainment center, because you're in my four walls. I don't care if it's my fence line, you're still in my four walls. You're going to pay my price. But I can also portion this differently. I can combine things together. And we end up getting our food cost down to 21% food cost.
Nice.
So my goal was 20. We didn't quite get there. But the bottom line is, it's better than when we started, because when we started, it was 30 to 50% food cost because the previous regime was not even focused on this. So you got to know your cost. If you know your cost, you can flow this through and you become more profitable. Your EBITDA will be higher.
Yeah, and then just
know the levers that you got to pull.
Yes, lots of marionette strings you got to realize. Pull the levers, but you're right. If you can get that cost down, and you become more profitable. You can invest into things that can, like you said, your VIP lounges, build those out, your chill zones, all those type of things to keep people there longer. So fortunately, it ends up being a virtuous cycle. But unfortunately, before you got there, it was going down the tubes the other way.
Well, they were focused on season passes. You don't do that in family entertainment centers. You might do that in a water park. You could do that in an amusement park and so forth. But you're still going to get people come by at the gate. The thing with family entertainment centers, that's usually a 15 to 20 minute, or that's in California, 15 to 20 mile radius in Florida or something like that. And so you're trying to only capture those folks, and you want them to keep coming back in, and they're going to continue to spend more, versus you go into an amusement park. It's a one time usually per year. I'm going to spend, and I'm going to spend a lot, and I might drive 200 miles to get there, whatever it might be. Here is something that's in your local backyard to go have fun. And you want to be able to say, you want it to be cheaper than amusement park overall.
Oh yeah,
fraction of Disney, let's say. That's what he used to say. And but still the same similar experience. You want to have a good experience when you come there. If that's the case, people remember, and then hence you build your overall attendance.
Well, and with the cost, and we'll wrap it up with this one for this segment. But with the cost, if they can come 2, 3, 4 times or more for the cost of one time to go to Disney. They don't have to take out a third mortgage to get there. They can,
with the new pricing they're doing to get in the front of the line, you might be spending $500-$600 for a ticket now. So it's amazing with what they've come up with. But
I heard a rumor with the new pricing scheme. They also created a new mortgage loan division, but I could be right. It might have just been rumor.
They really should come up with their own financing on this. They make a lot. I'm sure they'll write off some dollars, but they'll make a lot with it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll wrap up this segment of Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave, and we will be back in just a moment with our first question. See you in a bit. Welcome back to Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. We are here with special guest Tim Murphy. And Tim, let's jump right into the first question. So what does leadership mean to you, and what does good leadership look like?
So leadership means to me is that, I'm actually going to paraphrase this from Tom Landry, the Dallas Cowboys head coach. It's getting people to do something that they want to do, not motivated to do it. That's getting them to really focus in and say, I want to be a part of this and do this. So, it's setting goals on where we're going to go. You have to, as a leader, you got to have the vision of where you're going. What is it we're going to physically do? I shared in the last little piece about the, food costs. I want this to be 20%. I know it can be 20%, even if everyone told me it couldn't. And guess what? We're at the 21. So, but at the end of the day, it's because a little hindsight, but you start getting everyone involved. All right, start showing me foods that can fit in that 20% range or below, right? Because you have waste and you have issues. And we really focused in on those types of things. But if you can show everybody what this is about, why you're doing it, being transparent. I can't emphasize that more. You want accountability, you want responsibility, you want motivated individuals with you. And that's part of core values. You want safety for your team. You want to have social responsibility. You want to have strategic partnerships. These are all part of things that you go into this. You want, we're providing entertainment. We're doing some of these things, but they got to believe it. And they got to understand it. And when I started with the company, it was the very first thing I put in the employee handbook before even day one was the core values I believed in. Mm-hmm. Now, we modified that a little bit over time, which is fine. That seemed like it fit better, or one words versus phrases that I was giving. And so they got that and they understood it. But what I did from day one, I talked about it every week. Eventually I got to every 2 weeks. Then it was once a month. But I always explained what the business was doing, the good and the bad. And guess what? During the pandemic, we had a lot of bad, unfortunately, and we had to go through that. Or we had bad numbers, inflation, hard to get employees to work for us, those types of things. And we talked through those things. But we figured out how to do the business better, meaning labor percentage went up with inflation, but we were able to figure out how to bring it back down to where we were before. And some of that is how we schedule, we rotate attractions, we do some things differently, but we keep thinking through it. If you're going somewhere else, they don't think of these things because you're trying to continue to innovate. That's part of our core values. So to me, leadership, sell the plan, getting people on the same page, but I think it's fundamentally starts with what your core is. We can say mission and vision, but I think it really comes down to what do they believe in, and they can believe in what you believe in, which is the core values that you're putting out there. Every business is different. Large business, small business, they have different core values. They have some more, some less. But if you can't walk it, talk it, and do what you say you're going to do, then obviously others are watching you. I always try to walk the walk with core values because I know other people are watching me. And if I got them believing, they're then doing it with their team members. And then it filters down from that point of view. You still get bad managers and you still got to discipline and you got to do things like that. And even initially when I first took over the company, I canned three of the top individuals in the company because I didn't believe long-term they had core values that would resemble what the business was. We were in a financial strait because of the pandemic, but bottom line is I also believe that they didn't have that in them from things I heard from other people as I did my research. But bottom line is you've got to get all the right players on that page and start marching in the same direction. You can course correct. You can always make better decisions with better information. But I always believe in let's go do it. Let's just go do it. I never turn down ideas. If anything, I might say I plus them. Try to make it a little better. What if we did this with that? Whatever they've come up with, and be very open and be honest with yourself. I may be wrong.
Very true, and that goes a long way with people. It's when you're the boss and all of a sudden you're the CEO and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, they don't think they're right all the time, or their word has to be like Moses coming down from the from the mountain with the tablets, right? It's like the word of God. It's like, hey, it's just an idea. I could be wrong. How could we make it better? But a couple of things you hit on that I really like. One, you cannot. I've just seen from research and everything I've dealt with that you cannot stress senior leadership team alignment. You have to have that. It starts at the top, and you were talking about getting rid of some of the folks that didn't align with the values. But if you don't have everybody on that senior leadership team unified, aligned, all singing on the same sheet, all with the same core values, all marching in the same direction, it's just not going to work.
They become a cancer is what they become. And
exactly.
And you got to pull that out at some point or figure out how to minimize that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's one of those things that there's a piece of research that I saw at a SHRM conference April will be 2 years ago. And it was literally like somebody took a baseball bat and smacked me right in the face with it. And it was because I always kind of knew in the nebulous how, organizational culture and how important it is, but that to distill it down almost like absinthe, to like, okay, here's the most distilled you can get and how much the senior leadership team is important. This guy at a state SHRM conference he was talking about leadership, and the guy was really good, but he had one particular bit of research from Willis Towers Watson, and it said that highly aligned leadership teams can have employee engagement scores as high as 78%. Well, if you're kind of in the management HR realm, you kind of, okay, that's big, that's important, that's dollars. Yeah. And said, well, when they're not singing on the same sheet, they're not aligned or they're perceived not to be. And that's important too. They said engagement could be as low as 8%. And I was like, wow, okay. I know, full transparency, my degree is not in mathematics, right? But if only 8% are engaged, I'm pretty sure 92% aren't engaged, right? Just throwing that out there. And now out of that, I mean, you don't know how many of those non-engaged are clock punchers, the 9-to-5ers, I come in and do whatever, and how many of those fit that Gallup version of actively disengaged, right? That bomb throwers that, steak, shrimp, lobster on the cafeteria every day, and they're still going to be wrong. I mean, nothing you could do is right. You know the people, they're toxic. Gallup says those folks cost their organizations 34% of their salary annually and lost productivity and so on and so forth. Those guys got to go. But, when you've got 78% engaged because they're super aligned, you're not going to have a whole lot of actively disengaged people. People are in it to win it. But when you've got that huge, it could be as low as 8%. I mean, that is just millions for some companies just walking out the door in productivity and efficiency and profits every year. And I mean, that's why I'm completely sold on what you said, that leadership team completely on the same sheet of music, and you can really drive that organization to success.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, and you always want those benchmarks. We did something similar. We did a couple different surveys. I can't say they're all perfect by any means, but the first one that came out because of the way we were doing our core values and everything we went through, we were in the, about 88 to 95% range, depending on the question. It was great to see that they were aligned. They felt included. They felt being a part of it. They understood what we were doing. And you get a few folks the next year that says, hey, I'm jumping off the ship, and you get some little worse scores that were in the 70s, but still you knew 70% were following along with what you said was going to happen and what you were going through. So you look at it going, all right, is there always room for improvement? You just have to keep doing it. That's my point. You can't just say, hey, these are our core values or these are things we're doing and stop. You got to keep talking about it until you're blue in the face. When I started, it was Tim against the entire company. Yes. Finally, at the end, I had my leadership team that was talking to the team and, this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, one of the things about you talk about core values is that, you look at a lot of Maxwell's work and different things. You're talking about organizational culture, which is what you're building when you're talking about instilling those core values. You constantly have to be selling it. Like you have to be the biggest evangelist about that going. And it's not a one-time,
you can't
let's give it to you during your new hire orientation and never hear it about it again. In their face all the time, constantly selling it. So they're so sick of hearing about it. It just becomes habit.
Right. Exactly. So
and they buy in on it. Then
you're good. At the park, seeing it in signage behind the manager's doors, because I also taught them like Disney does. When Disney in the parks, when you go behind the wall, you come out from the wall, I should say, you're going on stage. That's what Disney teaches you. Yep. So you're now
game face on.
Yeah. You may have had a bad day, had a flat tire, your place is getting repossessed, whatever it is. But you're there not to tell everyone your problems. You're there to enlighten and make someone happy that just came into your park. You're on stage. You're acting. Even if everything else is bad in your life, you're now smiling. You're talking to the guest. Do they always do it? No, and I know that.
People are human.
At the end of the day, it's what's needed. You have to go out and put an act on. Same thing with selling, right? So no different. I'm talking about bad numbers with a smile on my face. These are the things that we're doing and trying to make this a better situation. Well, if Tim's a little happy about this, we might be going in the right direction because we course corrected on something. And you know, and you're honest, you know, look, we're vulnerable. You have to show a little vulnerability to everybody. But once they understand that about you and you understand that's what the core values, the more apt to follow along. They want someone to follow. But if you talk about it one time, hey, we come up with a mission statement, a vision statement, a core values. Here it is, everyone. See you. See you in another year.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. Oh, it's funny you say that because you're singing my song. My biggest pet peeve ever. Like I did this thing about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. It was a video series. I probably need to redo it, but in fresh version. But it was 5 ways to raise your employee engagement scores, and it was RAZE, like tearing down a building raise. And God, one of my biggest pet peeves has always been vision, mission, values, all that stuff, right? And most companies, the only 2 times that you see it is right during new hire orientation, right? when HR is going over them with you, and then that book goes away and you never see it again. Or if you get called to the CEO's office and it might happen to be on a plaque on the wall as you're walking by, right? That's it. That's it, Tim. That's the only 2 times you ever see them, right? And then beyond that, you're looking at what's on the wall, and you're looking at the CEO, and you're looking at what's on the wall, and you're looking at your boss, and you're like, what's on that wall and what they're doing don't jive, right? Because you mentioned that before. Not that they might see, no, they're always watching. I was interviewing a CEO the other day, and I was like, yeah, because, you know, they might be watching them. And no, they're always watching. Like, you're not going to get away with it.
Why is he coming in? Is he going to talk to me today? Is he even remember? Doesn't mean he has to remember you, but at the end of the day, is he going to remember me or remember our conversation? Doesn't have to remember my name, but does he remember things about me? And I try to remember as much as I can. That's why I go out and talk to people, get to know them a little bit, and I can remember, okay, you like such and such, you're married or whatever it is, and you know, you've got young kids or you like dogs, German shepherds, whatever it is. How's your dog doing? Even if I don't remember exactly the name, at least I'm trying to relate to them in some way. That I'm human too. And I explain myself, I explain my family and my young kids, and well, they're not young anymore, but I mean, they're in their late 20s, but you know, I'm sharing with them because I want to make a connection. If I get a connection, they're apt to listen to me a little bit more. What a lot of young stars, even people I worked with that was a part of my team, wouldn't try to make the connection. They were about themselves. This is what I did. This is how I did this, you know, versus saying, no, you really do need to go out and talk to people. It's not that hard. Take a little time. You know, does it cost you time? Of course it does. But, you know, at the end of the day, what it's going to pay is in dividends. I met the CEO. They talked to me. They explained the colors, where it came from. I actually took the colors from my parents' Spirit of 76 when I was a little kid and said, this is what we're going to put into Boomers and change it to that. I did explain that's where the colors come from. And, you know, it's different because it was what thoughts went into it, good or bad, you know, but that's where it came from. I gave you a little history you didn't probably know. So
God forbid I get a perception that you actually care about me as a person.
Right.
And that you're willing to explain a little bit of the why behind what's going on. And those 2 things right there can be game changers. And most people, it just passes them by and rush. I got to get the work done, or I don't want to waste the time on the people.
Whoever maybe put them through the orientation didn't take the time and gave them time. And, you know, they pushed it through. I had to inherit everybody. It's not like I started a company and said, this is what we're going to do on each of these steps. No, I had to try to change mindsets of people that were there. And that's a very critical thing you've got to be able to do. But being honest about it, because you know it's not going to be easy. So
and you know, course correcting, you know, steering that ship. That's like taking a cruise ship or an aircraft carrier and trying to, you know, make a 180. It takes a minute, right? It's not something you're going to do right away.
Oh yeah, considering there's a lot of backstabbing to begin with when I took over. Who's this new guy coming in?
Well, people don't like change, and when it's a radical change, and it's going to take me out of my comfort zone, and I'm used to doing it this way. Of course, they're going to try to, you know, booby trap and sabotage everything you're doing until they realize, wow, you're selling it, all the changes on what's in it for you. Why are you going to benefit by treating the customer this way, by putting your game face on when you go through the threshold, by doing these things I'm asking you? This is how it benefits you. And when they realize that, I think internalize, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. And and I talked to one CEO one time, and then we'll get to the second question. I was like, you know, if you can take every job you had, and this is a fairly decent sized nonprofit, and they worked with folks with disabilities. And so let's just say their mission was to enhance the lives of people with disabilities. I don't know. I just kind of spitballing. There was something to that effect. I'm like, if you can go through and they're like, well, we got a lot of turnover in some of these different positions and so on and so forth. I said, you need to get up with HR and you guys figure out from, like you said, a core value aspect, how to take every single job and link this to this to the mission of we enhance the lives of people with disabilities. Well, I'm just an account payable clerk or account receivable clerk. But if you didn't collect the money, we couldn't pay the salaries to pay the clinicians that do the work to enhance people. And they started doing that with every
if everyone
single
understands
position.
that, that's the reason why I had.
And realized.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I had that on my corporate calls. Once, it became once a month. I was doing every week, every 2 weeks, and then it became once a month. But I'd have all the park managers on, all the assistants, all the salespeople, all the corporate people, so they understand what their role was. How do we hit group sales? How did we do better in guest satisfaction? How do we do better in reviews? These are things and elements that are important to the overall business. So,
yeah. And if they bought into the mission and you've done a good job of the core values in the mission and they understand, all right, I can directly internalize what I do every day, whether it's the park manager or the janitor. I know what I do every day directly in some way contributes to the mission and it wouldn't be able to get accomplished if I wasn't here. That's gold right there. And but you have to constantly sell that with that. And I don't think people take the time to invest. They don't take the time to invest into that process to really get that into the culture.
Agreed. So it's done. It's one and done, or a couple times and done, and then they feel like they've done their job. No, it's a continuous process. You have to continue.
It never stops until it's just ingrained habit, and then it's just, you could use a fancy buzzword called culture, but basically it's like, hey, this is just how we do things around here, right? How that works. So, all right, we'll get to our next question. So what was the biggest leadership challenge you've had to face?
Oh, there's so many over my career. But I will say when I first took over Rebounderz Parks, I had to identify who was going to be on board with me and who wasn't. Quick, very, very quickly. Part of it is because we're in the middle of the pandemic. We're burning cash really fast. At the time, I had one park open and not sure how it was going to stay open with everyone couldn't hire people and so forth to get them out to the park, let alone guests coming. But I said, all right, who fits with what we're doing? So the challenge for me was, how do I do this? I am super honest. I'm brutally honest, probably. And I had to make decisions rather fast. And I had to ask a lot of questions of a lot of park managers at the time. That led to 3 terminations I had to do right off the bat from the top. I had everybody report to me, all of corporate, as well as all the park managers reporting to me until I got to know who's who and who could handle this. It didn't happen overnight because we're in the middle of the pandemic. I couldn't talk to anyone until we closed the deal. Basically, I had 1 hour with everyone, but it was a monitored phone call, so they couldn't tell me a whole heck of a lot. And I had to ask specific questions, try to dig stuff out of them to find out, who are you as a manager, or do you suck? I couldn't tell until I finally get the chance to talk to them individually. But so anyway, I finally get to do this, and it took a little time to go from park to park and meet with people and people in corporate to chat a little bit, just to know who they are, know who I am, that type of thing. And they had a stereotype of who I was already in their head from a couple of the leaders that didn't feel like I was going to be a fitting person for this. I had no experience. I couldn't do this. And so I had to make quick decisions, but I based it on facts. That is the hardest thing when you try to take your emotion out of it, of knowing someone's trying to tear the heck out of you inside, that you go, what's the facts here? Facts are, do they go to the parks? Do they visit the parks? Do they even know what's going on in the parks? Do they understand what's there? How do they minimize cost? Are they really, on par with what private equities are going to be looking for? Will they participate, or are they bullshitting me? Which, a lot of times they were. And so you have to, the hardest part was saying, keep a straight face, game face on, knowing what you're going to have to do. But I think if I learned anything, I'm very vocal. I've share a lot of opinions rather loudly to lots of people, even if they're just earshot or what. I wouldn't change that about me. I've learned, if anything, during this whole process, I wouldn't change that because it gave me the right answers I needed. And frankly, legally, I did everything right. So, there is nothing that I did wrong in terminating people, but, to hurt their feelings or make their feelings better, I probably could have been a little less vocal, but it's not going to stop who I am because I'm going to be honest and brutal about it when I need to be.
Well, when you got private equity, are you willing to keep hemorrhaging cash for the sake of, being nice to somebody who's toxic, who's not on board with the change that needs to be made?
Yeah.
That's really the bottom line.
Yep.
And at some point, you just need to.
Yeah. I mean, I learned real fast within probably 2 conversations. I got all the information I'm ever going to get out of this person. I'm not going to get any more, and they're very senior. So it's not going to get any better from this point.
Well, once you realize you reach that plateau, you're like, okay, what now? I can make an informed decision. What do I want to do from here?
And frankly, that's what private equity wanted me to do. Hey, talk to them, really make sure you understand it. Not sure what you're going to need to do. We didn't know how long the pandemic was going to be. Was it 2 more weeks or 7 more months? Who knows what's going to physically happen? And it was 7 more months, basically. So, especially in California. But, you look at it and you go, we need to do something. We need to do something fast, and we need to cut costs. And I'm burning cash like crazy, and I wouldn't like to stay afloat since I'm out in California. I'm going to continue to do what I got to do. And of course, Cerberus was, I'll say, very graceful. They were one of the best private equity firms I've ever worked with.
Nice.
And I say that all the time, just how good they were, how involved they were. They really understood their business. They really asked very good questions. It was great to have them to bounce ideas off and them ask me pointed questions, which was great. Some people go, oh, I never wanted them in my business. I'm like, no, they were really good. I really enjoyed it. Very smart. They supported me in every way possible to be successful with it. But you also know, hey, at the end of the day, I still got to operate back to a private equity firm and tell them. I can talk to everyone on a day-to-day basis on the bottom level, but I have to turn it around the bullet points to those guys at the top and show them what they need. So
Well, and the thing is, they understand at least. All right, they're in the pandemic as much as you are. They understand the fact that, okay, the regulations say we can't open. Hard to have a business where people physically have to be there when you can't open, right? Nobody rides a roller coaster on Zoom. I just throwing it out there. I've never seen anybody play around a mini golf on Teams. Okay, I could be wrong, but I haven't seen that before. So at least they understand you can't make money when you're not open.
Right, absolutely. So to me, that was the hardest thing that I had to go through was getting my point across. What do we got to change? Operating as quickly as I possibly can, making as quick of decisions as I could, knowing I could always course correct, right? I know I could always fix something, and I did. You didn't know what was going to happen from day to day with the municipalities and regulatory agencies and what you could and couldn't do or open for, and who you can allow in and you couldn't allow in, and what masks had to be there, and what circles need to be on the ground, and all that stuff. So,
how much plexiglass do we got to put up? You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, what It's anyway. It was crazy that because everybody was different. So you're dealing with that on a day-to-day basis, but you're also trying to define, is the person from a leadership point of view going to support me? And if they're not, make a quick decision and really move on from it.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Well, this sounds like a good place to end this segment of Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. We'll get to our last 2 questions and wrap up the interview. And we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to our final segment of Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. And we are here with special guest Tim Murphy. And Tim, let's get into our next question headlong. What do you see as one of the biggest mistakes leaders make today?
I think the biggest mistake that most leaders that I pay attention to, and I've had to learn this from my earlier part of my career, is to listen more than you talk. We're all want to beat our chests, tell how great we are in lots of things that we do, but it's best to listen to everyone. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's someone just fixing food, cleaning the bathroom, operating a ride, one of my senior team members. Understand that you could be wrong. So that's why you should listen, because you don't want to go over and extend yourself that says, oh, really, I really screwed that one up. It's a lot better when you sink the ship together, if that's really the case. But I think we don't listen enough. I know I didn't younger. I thought I was headstrong, know what's going on. I try to pay attention. What are the levers? What can I use strategically when I need to deal with this person or that person? Or how do I get the most out of them? How do I find what they like, and put them into that position if I can? I may identify that they have better quality strengths doing something else somewhere else where they think because they've been limited to what they've been put into. And even though in their mind, I really like this, I pay attention to this, but your strength is over here in operations versus say maybe over here in IT. And you like that. I like that too, to a certain extent, but I've kind of given up on that now, older in my life. But at the end of the day, you got to identify what's your strength. Some people are better at talking, sales, right, than they are in dealing with some guests, like face-to-face and ticketing or operations, and maybe they're better with a party or party host because they know how to make someone smile or having a good time with kids. I hear that a lot. And it's a matter of finding what the strengths are with somebody and maximizing them, and then give them projects to work on so that they continue to build in that area. Because a lot of times, a lot of managers or senior level individuals say, oh, I can do it myself better than someone else. Yeah, I probably can. I don't have time for that anymore. So I need to give it to somebody. And I want to follow up. Did you do it? But if there's anything I can say and stress more, you got to empower them. You're responsible for those individuals. You've got to make them accountable for time deadlines and costs and things of that nature. But when it starts getting well out of whack, you've got to reel it back in and say, no, let's cut this off. Maybe you're doing too much with this. Maybe we need to take some priorities that we've called priorities off your list, and really focus in on some of these other areas. And I've had to do that with different managers because I had with my main folks that I talk to is, I know you got projects all the time. You don't have to tell me every day what's going on. Let's just do this once a month. Let's go through a list of stuff you've got. And I'll go through there and I'll ask, you haven't touched it in like 3 months. Are you going to do anything with it? Or are we going to, talk about it again next month or next year? And we have to say that probably needs to come off because it's not important. Maybe it was important to you at one point, but things have changed, whatever. Or maybe it was important to me at one point and things have changed. Because you got to redirect and say, I'm not going to make you keep doing something that doesn't need to be done. I remember with managers for me or owners for me that I've worked for, if they didn't ask for it a second time, that was off my list. And they came back, maybe now it's important again, So it's less I have to do if I just can manage that and set the priorities. But I'll also ask, what do you think the priorities should be? I want you to take ownership of this department, HR or marketing or, operations or finance. You take control of this and tell me what you need. I'll support you. And I would say to them all the time, have I ever said no? Maybe we have to redo it or delay it or cost or something associated with it, but I've never really said no. I want you to go after what you think you should do. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to say, maybe not so much that. How about this, instead? But you have to look at it and say, how do I empower someone to get something done? But remember, your responsibility is for these individuals still. I still got to report to the guys at the top.
Yep.
That's my boss, the chair of the chairman of this thing. And at the end of the day, they want an answer. What the hell happened? You can't hide behind, well, that's somebody else's problem. Not mine. No, it's all yours. It's all yours.
100%. Yeah.
You are responsible for everything, regardless of good and bad or bad PR or whatever comes out of it. So you've got to be able to empower someone, be responsible for them, but hold them accountable to get what they say they're going to do done. The sooner that you start pulling off from accountability from them, the sooner they're going to let more things slide. And, they got to know and understand that you're watching, but I want them to choose, all right, we got this project to do. When do you think you can get it done? I've never said, get this done by next week. I've always said, oh, do you think 3 weeks from now? Okay, 3 weeks from now, it's all yours. 3 weeks come and go and I don't hear from you. Well, that's a problem.
Right.
What happened? These are things that we have to change. And I let them know that, but I empower them to say, course correct. I've had to discipline people where they thought they should have not been disciplined. Oh, that's not my fault. I didn't do this, blah, blah, blah. You said you were going to do these things. You didn't do these things. What makes you think any different than anyone else that's out there? I let you make the decision when you're going to do this. I didn't say, got to have it done by this. Only if the guys from the top say, got to have this done right now, will I do something like that and say, all right, all hands on deck. Let's get this fixed. Let's focus on this. But other than that, I try to let people do their job by empowering them, give them the tools necessary when and where appropriate, because sometimes they ask for tools that you can't possibly afford. Right. And at the end of the day, here's what we've got. How do we make it work from this? And if you do that, to me, that person feels a little more buy-in to what they're doing with it. Do they always buy in? No. And you've got to course correct them. You're responsible for them. You got to course correct them and make them accountable to get the things done they said they were going to do. So that's my stint. I hope that answers the question for you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like I said, listen more. And one of the big things too is I like how you talked about, yes, you let them make the decision. Yes, you keep them accountable. Yes, they're responsible for it. But then you finally, after a few sentences, you finally hit on a key word, and I've heard it phrased a few different ways, but you empower them to do it. Right. Like having guest services at a hotel and say, okay, if there's an issue, and I forget which hotel it is, if there's an issue with a guest, you have up to $250 to just make it right. Like, don't even ask anybody. You've got up to this to just handle it. And there's so many times I've seen
known for that. So
yes, you're accountable for it, you're responsible for it, but you don't have the empowerment or the authority to truly make it happen like you need to do that. And that's trying to fight a championship match with one hand tied behind your back.
Yeah.
That makes it a little bit, that makes it kind of tough.
With it, so we kind of looked at it from that same point of view, from a review point of view. And we want them to hopefully do better reviews. Yeah, out of that. So.
Oh, 100%. So how about we jump on our last question? What do you think is the best way for leaders to improve their leadership skills?
Okay, so there's a lot of people that won't change. I think change is inevitable and constant. I don't think you sit still and learn it all, going to school. I think it's continuous learning. I listen to podcasts. I listen to books. I love books on success stories that have taken place, or even failures. What was the one for, what's the, when to work. So, what Adam did with when to work and how he failed miserably with this. I love to hear these things because it tells me that people are sometimes greedy, and then ultimately it's what's the downfall of their business. But you learn these things. You learn attributes of those successful folks like Sam Walton or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, or there's just so many folks that you can learn from as mentors along the way. You should never, ever stop learning, because you may hear some great things about people or aspects or how they got through it or how they stomached it. Ray Kroc and how they got through McDonald's, or, the guys, the folks that did In-N-Out Burger, the Snyder family. It's how did they build that cult, if you will, of In-N-Out Burger? And, there's some stomach, there's some drive, but it's also some of the fundamentals you bring into some of management today. It's like, how do I empower people? How do I take care of people from what I can do? I'm taking over a bankrupt company. Can I provide more things? To give you, for instance, one of the things that I was concerned about that other folks didn't do in the industry is, for every time they had every time they had a break, I made sure there was snacks available for our team members. Every time there was a lunch or a dinner, we gave away free food. I didn't give away my most expensive stuff, but I gave away stuff that I felt comfortable, in giving them. And we built that in as a cost. Yes, we rose our wages up. We want to be an employer of choice. We gave away points so they could get gift cards on different things if they went above and beyond and did things. Right. I want this to be the place to come to And so you learn that aspect of like what the Snyders did for family members or even team members, and helping them with loans on houses and just things that they did because they wanted to give back. We give back to the community. We were with crime survivors in Southern California, junior achievement, and other programs. And, you know, we had discounts. We gave away free membership, or free passes for military and first responders and things like that. We also realized it cost us a lot, so we cut it back to half of it. But the bottom, because some of them just came in and never did anything. They rode our rides and then left. They never ate anything. We were hoping to get more. But the bottom line is, we did things to make this a fun place. You know, core values are one of those things that we believe in. That's social responsibility. It's, you know, team member and guests as well alike, and service that we provide. But you realize when you do these things that you're setting yourself above and beyond other companies. And I wanted to be a leader in what we did, knowing labor was tough. Look, I'm you know, in California, they passed a FAST Act that it was $20 an hour to work at fast food. Yep. I'm probably not going to be able to pay all that. But I can increase my wage somewhat and keep people with us, because I know they're not giving them free food. They're not giving them free snacks. They're not giving them gift cards for going above and beyond. They're not doing things. And so we wanted to do more things for our team members. So we built in some little additional cost that was in labor ultimately as it rolled up. But we got, to me, better people, because when I went out and talked to people about what was called Nectar Points, when they got points, oh, I love the Nectar Points. You know, I was able to save enough points to go to Disneyland and buy some gift cards to go to Disneyland, or restaurants that we went to, or Starbucks, or whatever it was. So, but one thing that I really liked hearing was, especially college kids you bring in, or even high school kids, this is the one meal I had for the day. It's like, oh, man. You know, that you start going, you don't know what their home life is like. And what we probably just did for them by putting a meal, not the greatest meal in the world, I will say, because we're a family entertainment center.
Yeah, you might not put the prime rib or the, you know, filet mignon, but I mean, they're happy for 3 or 4 slices of pizza, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, at the end of the day, they got something out of it. I said, do you take advantage of this? Usually the college kids, the high school kids, oh yeah, I eat here all the time or whatever. This is my one meal for the day. It's like, if nothing else, it warmed your heart knowing that you did something for them that I know the other competition doesn't do. I know the others in our kind of food beverage industry doesn't do. So, you know, if they do a discount type of thing. Like my son works at Cheesecake Factory. He gets 25% off of whatever the order is. Still expensive, you know, at the end of the day. Parents take advantage of that because he runs us through that when we go out to Cheesecake. Yeah.
But it doesn't help him very much. And as I say, 25% of really expensive is still pretty expensive.
Right. But giving someone a free meal, free drink, or the snacks or whatever, if they're working a shorter shift, it's not much to give away, but not everybody thinks about that. But it creates loyal team members to me, at least while they're there, even if it's only for the high school years or the college years, or maybe for life. I mean, we've had people come in for the high school years and stay for life. You know, they've been there for like 20 years. So it's those little things that you go, try to be different, try to think through it. It's kind of like, how do we solve the problem for labor? That was the initial part of this. How do we solve the problem for labor and getting the right people coming here? Well, let's take a look at what we offer. What are the things that we can tell we're different than others? It's kind of like the same thing with your own business. How do I set myself apart from competition? Yes. What do I do to bring guests in? What can we do differently to sell more things? Our VIP areas, our boomers' backyards, our different foods, our full liquor license. These are things that set us apart. So why wouldn't we do that with team members too?
Well, and I think people don't think about that. They think about how can we differentiate ourselves with the customer, but not realizing the number one cost of labor isn't, okay, I'm paying this guy 15 an hour versus 20 an hour. It's turnover. Yeah. You know, a couple bucks an hour, or, you know, throwing in that extra, when you're throwing in that extra
people. I mean, especially when you're talking about safety in food, safety in operations, safety in attractions. You know, there's just so much associated with this. It's like you have to teach these pieces. If we're in water parks, lifeguards. If you're going to be a lifeguard, you've got to go through certification before you can become a lifeguard. That's time and effort we have to spend with them to get them taught each year. So, you know, even if they're returning, you still got to do it again, you know, and then we do more trainings along the way. So once they're out, then it's like, all right, next person, we got to get you to understand this whole methodology and all the acronyms that we have for different things. And you've got to, you know, there's so much more that you've got to go through versus, you know, your you're standing at a fryer, you're flipping fryers. Okay, that's great. But there's so much more, right, that goes along
exactly, exactly. I mean, it kind of goes to like the, taking that philosophy on keeping people, making the experience different. It significantly reduces turnover, but almost, kind of in the same ballpark as a divorce lawyer. He's going to tell you, look, man, it's cheaper to keep her, right? I mean, it's no different than employees, right? Like it's 3 to 5 times their salary. It can be, depending on their level. I mean, there's so many ways you can factor in there. I don't. It does,
and so
stuff for frontline staff on
for that
candidate selection, and then go ahead.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we not only do you do that for part-time individuals, because that's usually most of your workforce, but then you're looking at for full-time. What do we do differently? Let's create some bonus programs. We're going to do it based on goals. You're going to fulfill goals that we're going after, or you share or you don't share in our overachievement, or certain areas you're going to go. But we're going to provide other benefits and other things. We increase the 401k. We went the safe harbor route. Just things that we could add for team members to say, this is a really good place to be, that they're really taking care of me.
Well, the nice part about that, too, from a purely selfish standpoint, you're thinking, one, they're going to be happier. They're going to be more engaged. I'm going to keep them. That's one part of the coin. The flip side of the coin is if I love working somewhere and I'm in college, I'm in high school, and I got a buddy of mine that says, hey, I'm looking for a place to work. And they're like, oh, man, you need to come over here to Boomers. Man, I love this place. They do this, they do that, free pizza, whatever. They're going to be your best recruitment firm.
Okay.
I mean, they just are. They're going to spread the word, and people are like, oh, man, that sounds awesome. I want to work there.
And by the way, we have free attractions. You ride the go-karts, play miniature golf, do the arcade,
Yeah. They're going to be your biggest salespeople on recruiting new people. Where are we going to find labor? Our existing labor, treat them like gold, and they're going to go out and tell people, and people are going to want to work here.
Yeah, so, and that's ultimately
a great philosophy, but I wish more people did it.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's
exactly.
It's interesting, but then you say, well, this is how we present to guests, right? That's why there's such a cult with those that are working at Disney or Disneyland. I love the place. I still love the place. I don't want to stand in lines anymore, but I still love the place, because I worked for 6.5 years. But there is a bit of a cult-like feeling of I've got this magical happiness experience that I'm coming to go work for every day. And, I think I was just reading on, one of the presidents for Disneyland, we just put out that I'm so happy and tickled to death that we had 12 people that have been here for more than 50 years. Amazing when you really think about it. It's just because they were able to make it such a happy place for them to work. I'm sure they went through ranks and did well over time, but it's all the fun things you get to do with it. And I still come back to some of my best days was at Disney. And that's way back, that the experiences that I got to do, the things I got to see, driving a company car, emptying the arcades, all the fun things that went along with it as a younger Tim. And, at the end of the day, it was just a cool experience. And then eventually getting into financial statements and getting to know the finance people and, what you need to know about resorts and, what you're doing with the parks and so forth. So really cool stuff. But I still go back to some of my favorite memories are from Disney. So.
Well, I laugh because it sounds like a similar experience. I mean, when one of your first W-2 work experiences is that positive.
Yeah.
And it really leaves an indelible mark, and you realize, okay, it can be like this. It can be this good. Yeah. And then you go somewhere else and it's not. And, I joke with people. That's why I got into doing what I do. I said, I blame it all on a chicken sandwich. And they look at me like I got 3 heads. And I'm like, well, other than landscaping, mowing grass, odd jobs. I mean, my first W-2, paycheck was in high school, 15 and a half, went down, got a work permit, worked for Chick-fil-A. And that was when it was drab, brown, nothing but chicken in the mall, no by pleasure, no cows, none of that crap, right? Just chicken, right? But my friend, to your point, a good friend of mine from high school was like, hey, I work here. She loved it, talked great about it. You need to come work here. Okay. So I did. So they, same type thing you were talking about. Obviously, it was fast food. Obviously, the pay was low. The work was hard. And at Christmas, because it was at the mall, you're busier than a one-legged man in a butt whooping contest. I mean, the lines were like 100 deep. It was awful. But you know what? Everyone there loved coming to work. They enjoyed being there. And it wasn't just the owner operator that treated everybody great. I mean, it trickled down to all the management team, the managers, the supervisors, and it created the environment. And I'm an idiot, right? I'm, 15 to 18 years old. I'm working there 3 years out of my 18 years, right? Pretty good percentage. I don't know any better, right? I'm thinking this is what work is, right? So of course I go somewhere else and it sucks. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And they're like, this is called work in the real world. I'm like, no, man. Like it could be like this. They're like, look, boy, that doesn't exist. I'm like, look, old man, I'm telling you, it does. And of course, they don't know any better.
True, Kathy was the one that set the tone for that. This is how we handle guests. This is how we handle team members. It handed down through the rest of the company. It kept everyone creative on that. It's amazing what his whole story and where he started with that little restaurant that was outside of Atlanta and then turning it into what it's become and then going to Dallas and all the things that he did. Yeah. And finally coming up with the cow program and just all the fun stuff.
And my pleasure because of a luxury hotel and all that stuff. But it was way before that. And I realized after I got out, that didn't happen by accident.
Right.
The normal course of things is entropy and things go downhill and get more toxic. They don't get better. And then it just intrigued me. What did this guy do to create that kind of culture? And that's what kind of got me on the path. But it's funny when that first experience is really good, it sets the bar high, or it could ruin you. One of the two. I mean, you're like, you're just screwed from that point on. You're like, okay, I know the experience can be this good because I lived it. Yeah. What do we got to do to make this place like that, where we can get back to that experience? And it sounds like that's a lot of what you've done in your career is, hey, let's get back to this great experience I had at Epcot.
Yeah, no, it ends up being that way. And when you're at Epcot and you're dealing with thousands and thousands of people, they think they own you when they come through the doors.
Of course. And they don't?
I paid so much at the time.
I paid your salary.
Whatever it was, $19.99 or get into the place was so cheap in '82. It's versus what it is today, right? But it's like they felt like they own you at the end of the day. So it's really interesting. But what you take from that, it's okay, how do we make this experience for everyone the same way? And that's the reason why I put my team through the Disney's Institute of Guest Service, because it's like you want to see a little difference. What do they do? What does, to me, the best does? They teach it. They teach it to many other companies. That they want to take a class from Disney's Institute, you're more than welcome to. And you just get an idea what Disney does, but it gives you ideas. There's a lot in the industry that talk about service, recouping service. A good friend of mine teaches that for the entertainment business. He came from Universal, head of guest service when Universal opened. So a lot of complaints, a lot of things, how to make it better, that type of thing. But not everybody does it. There's 6,000 family entertainment centers in the United States today. It's going to more than double in the next 10 years, if not triple, because they were saying the latest statistics is it could triple. And so you got this, you're going to have a lot of challenges, a lot of companies. There's not many major brands in this area. Those that will be most successful will be when they address guest service the way it needs to be. And that's kind of the key. But the only way you can do it is with the right team members.
100%. And honestly, you can almost thank Disney for that, because like you said, when you got to take out a third mortgage or a second mortgage to go to the park, for most people, hey, let's go to somewhere 20 minutes down the road that's a lot more affordable. So I can see where that where the industry can definitely
and so if you can
have an opportunity to explode.
Yeah. So, there's going to be
people. What would you rather do? Do something?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oops. Go ahead.
No, I didn't.
I didn't hear where do you want to go? Somewhere where you can go maybe 3, 4. Oh, sorry. I said, where do you want to go? Somewhere where you can go 3, maybe 4 times during the summer for the cost of maybe 1 vacation.
Right. Yeah. And if you can have a decent feel, vibe, doesn't have to be 100%. That's what I said. Guys, we'll never be Disney, but we got to work towards it. We got to try to emulate the best we can with this. And then that in itself will separate us from everyone else. Because what happens in this industry, and I've seen this happen so many times because I've looked at so many parks, most of them just flip it out and hope that it's going to work. And then those that are getting a little bit better at this, they just try to cookie cutter this and approach it, but they haven't really addressed the experience. And that's what guests are looking for. So if you think educated individuals looking for a great experience, think about what you would really like if you were to go to a park. And can you emulate it? Doesn't mean you will, but what elements can you bring into this? And that's where I think you'd be most successful with.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, tell everybody, tell our listeners how they can connect with you, your company, website, LinkedIn, if they want to just wrap in all the goodness of Tim Murphy.
Yeah, I think the best thing if you want to connect with me is go onto LinkedIn, Tim Murphy CEO. That's my back piece for LinkedIn. If you go look at that, you'll find me. You'll see my website, my personal website, Tim Murphy CEO. You're welcome to connect with me there. And that's the best way to do it. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X. I'm on Facebook as well. But LinkedIn is my favorite spot to go to because mainly it's businesses I'm talking to. So happy to chat with anybody on what's going on or how I can help you. So.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Tim. And we will be back our next time, our next episode of Conversations on Leadership with Dr. Dave. Take care.